All right, very good. We're going to wind down for today by catching up with someone we always enjoy conversations with. He is the head football coach at the University of Maryland, and he is sticking around. He has agreed to a contract extension to remain the head football coach at the University of Maryland. He is Coach Mike Locksley, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Coach, it's Glenn. It's great to chat with you as always. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us.
No problem. What's going on, Glenn? How are you?
Everything is good, man. How about yourself? I remember we talked after the bowl game, and things were looking up, and it obviously was a great moment for you. Have you felt momentum from that over these last few months? Have you felt like it caught the attention maybe of a few more folks about the direction your program is headed in?
Yeah, we felt the momentum, and I've talked to our team about this quite a bit. The thing that stood out to us, to me, at this bowl game, and this is something we've tried to capture again, is we were stuck up there in New York and forced to do a lot of things together because of the COVID situation up there, and I really saw our team kind of become really, really close. And so, we're using two pillar words: committed and connected. To me, those were the key ingredients to how we finished the season off. And now for us to take that next step this season, it's going to be predicated on just how committed we are to doing things to our standard, but then also how connected we are with each other. And we spent a lot of time with this, the player-centric things that has become a college football landscape. And as coaches, being around these guys and spending quality time with them, constantly recruiting them to keep them in the program is going to be really, really important to create that stability. And I feel like we've done that. And going to a bowl game has kind of created that momentum where our players like the feeling of it. They like being together during the holidays, practicing. They enjoyed the way the game went, and I think to me it's created that momentum that you want to see going into the next year.
What is it? You alluded to this, and you kind of alluded to some of it. What does it take? What is the difference between a team that got to, as we talk about, where this is the expectation now for the program, and a team that's able to take that next step to be more competitive within the Big Ten?
Yeah, I mean, it takes those two words we talked about. It's making a total commitment to doing things to our standard, the work we put in the off season. Our veterans reported back yesterday. Our first year guys, high school players, will be coming in June 19th. And so to me, the commitment level of the work that has to be put in when nobody's looking, when nobody's watching, is going to be really, really important. But then I also think just how connected as a program we are to each other, where we really become that band of brothers that you sell, where you lay it on the line for the guy next to you. And to me, that's the two important things that for us to become more competitive within our conference and to take the next step that we need to take in as we go into year four. I think those are the things that we've made a point of emphasis.
He is Mike Locksley. He's with us here on GCR. Coach, you agreed to a contract extension for 5 years. I know you weren't looking at other jobs. It wasn't something along those scenarios. But how much does it help to make sure everyone knows, hey, I'm here. When I ask you for total commitment, I need you to know that I'm totally committed to this place.
Yeah, and to me, kind of has been the Achilles heel of Maryland football. When you hear, when people describe Maryland athletics, and I mean, look at what we did this past spring in baseball and lacrosse, and then what Sasho has done in soccer, and the things that jump out. Kathy Reese with women's lacrosse,
Mm-hmm.
and Missy, is that there's been so much consistency in all these programs to where the culture is set. And when you look at what Maryland football has been, and I've said this before, in basketball, you've had, three head coaches basically over the last 40 years. Obviously I do know Bob Wade spent a minute as the head coach here as well, but since 1985, I think when I counted, it was like nine coaches when you count the interim coaches that have come through here
Hmm.
for football. And I just don't see how you can develop a consistency in a program when you change at the top so much. And so for me, stabilizing Maryland football is all about trying to create a consistent culture. And yeah, we'll lose assistant coaches, you'll lose players, but the building blocks and the foundational things that need to be in place for a program to grow and become consistent, I think it starts with being at the top. And so I'll be the first to tell you, 7-6 isn't, isn't my standard. It isn't where I hold myself. Obviously, I know what I took over, and when I got here in 2019. Uh, but I was approached Coach Damon Evans, and my boss approached me about it, and I was a little hesitant, not because I don't want to be here, but 7-6 isn't our standard. It isn't my standard, but I'm very appreciative of Damon and Dr. Pines for um, recognizing where we are going as a program and understanding the vision. We spend a lot of time together. I'm constantly communicating where I see this program going, and it's headed in the right direction, and I'm excited to be able to be here.
I want to talk to you about a couple things. One that jumps out at me. There's been a change within college football that the division system might be going away, and you and I have talked a lot over the years about the difficulty of the division that you're within, that you're in. It's quite possibly the most difficult division in all of college football. I certainly don't think that you would want to run away from that challenge, but do you think it would be more fair for the Big Ten to move away from the divisional concept as far as establishing two teams to compete for a championship now that the rules allow that to be the case?
Yeah, I've gone on the record, and I'm a big believer. Obviously, the Big Ten East is one of the, if not the toughest divisions in football. I've spent time at Alabama. Obviously, the SEC West will be very comparable to what we go through year in and year out. For me, the reason you join a conference is for everybody to have success or to succeed financially as programs. And so for us, I think the big thing that I've always kind of geared my decision about these divisions is all about how do we best position ourselves as a conference to get two teams in the playoffs the way it's set now. Obviously the SEC has dominated that by having two teams in quite a few of the playoffs, and that's double the payout to the conference.
Yeah.
When you look at the way we're structured as a conference, some of our heavier teams, and this is not to take anything away from, the west side of our division, because I know that I don't want to be on the record as if
right. You're trashing them. Yeah,
not
I hear
good,
you. Yeah.
because we've struggled with both divisions. But I do think if we want to kind of continue to compete against, the SEC, we need to do the things that allow us to put our best foot forward to try to, put two teams in the college football playoffs. And to me, the best way to do that is to get rid of the divisions, come up with a scheduling that allows you to continue to have your rivalry games that we have, but then, also have the ability within your conference and is to create kind of a playoff yourself, because I know it's all about the TV dollars and as they talk about the inventory of games that you get to play. We're the only conference that's, is playing 9 games because, the inventory of a 9th conference game compared to maybe a out-of-conference game or a FCS game isn't as attractive for TV. So I just think anything we can do to continue to put our best foot forward with trying to get two teams in the playoffs benefits Maryland and it benefits the Big Ten.
Coach Mike Locksley is with us here on GCR. Would there be any pushback, like, knowing what you know about recruiting, would it be tougher if you weren't guaranteed to be going to places like Michigan and Penn State and Ohio State every couple of years? Does that matter to the kids that you're going after?
No, I mean, we're in the Big Ten, so at some point, whether we create the playoffs within our league by not having a division, you're going to eventually play, and during the course of a 4-year schedule, you'll go to every one of those venues. So I don't think that part affects it as much as the success of the league.
Obviously there's been a lot, I know you have been very in favor of NIL. You've been out in front of it for a very long time, and you've talked about what it does. There's been this pushback, and certainly your friend Coach Saban was very loud about this, that worried about this being conflated with pay for play in recent years. Are you at all concerned about there needing to be more regulation in terms of it, Coach? I don't know exactly what it's looked like for you, and if it's gone the way you wanted it to go or the way you think it's supposed to go. What have you seen as far as a deciphering the difference? And I'll tell you, I don't really care if it is pay for play personally, but I know that doesn't affect me the same way that it affects you. What do you make of that?
No, I mean, I do think that there needs to be a little more, and it's hard to use the word equitable, but a little more guardrails to create a little more equity in how teams that are, at the FBS level are able to compete. Because if without the guardrails, as we've continued to see, you see the gap between the haves and the have-nots continue to be created. And, to me, it's all about, still bringing in good players. I've been on the forefront of NIL. I'm a true proponent that they deserve it. But I do think, kind of what the NCAA did, and someone used this analogy, it was like they raised the speed limit on the highway and they took the state troopers off the highway. And now you're running into a bunch of other issues, whether it's accidents and things that are happening, and now you're trying to come back and put the state troopers back on, but people are still going above the speed limit. So I do think we need to create a little more equitable guardrails. I think the NCAA coming out. The only rule with NIL is you can't use it for recruiting inducements, and that's what I think Coach Saban was trying to make a point of. So it's really no rules, no law with it, and obviously everyone is trying to figure it out. And because there is no case precedent as to the best way to do it, you would think us here where we're located, because of the commercial business entities that are headquartered in this area, and being two major cities like Baltimore and DC that support our program, that we should be a program that's at the forefront of it. We've shown the ability to recruit really well because of relationships we have, but now if we can, we're in the process of putting together some things that will help us with our NIL stuff, like every other program in the Big Ten. And I'm very hopeful that, the supporters of Maryland football step up to help us to not have that gap continue to widen for us and to close it. As I've said before, people, they ask me, or the question is, hey, can we become more competitive in the Big Ten? And my answer is yes, we can. And now I throw the same question back saying, hey, if you want us to be competitive, I'd like to see you come support us to help us become, because now we legally can do things to go get really good players that are right here within an hour drive any direction from campus. And because of the NIL opportunities, we have the ability to compete for these guys if we can find people that will want to come help us take that next step.
And I don't want to get too lost in the weeds here, Coach. I wonder, as you describe it, if it's even possible to completely separate NIL from the idea of recruiting inducements, right?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Okay.
Because here's what you do. Instead of me talking to player A, who's a high school kid, saying, hey, I'll give you $50,000 to come play football here, in NIL deals, you say, listen, we have players in our program that have made up to $50,000 in NIL money. So it sets a case precedent of what guys have been able to do NIL here.
Right.
And then once they get on campus, you're legally able to do whatever you want to, as long as it is documented, turned in under compliance. And so to me, it's not, they haven't changed very much. I just can't promise a kid, a recruitable kid, NIL money.
Right.
But now once he's in our program, these collectives that everybody's setting up, and these LLCs, and all these fans that support, and the ones that want to see us be more successful, well, now you guys have the ability to put some skin in the game with Coach Locks.
By the way, I reference you, I want to say once every 2 days or so, because when you told me, when you always say the transfer portal giveth and taketh away, like, it always sticks with me when people start whining about the transfer portal. Like, I'm always reminded that you say, hey, look, man, we're going to get players from this thing the same way we're going to lose players from this thing.
Right.
Like, it's not as if all of a sudden there's 1,000 less college football players that exist because of the transfer portal. They're all still playing. They're just going different places.
Yeah, but I would, and I would also say that, we're not going to be a program that wants to every year have a different culture of the type of kids. And for us, we'll use the portal for by need only. I still want to build my program with the high school players that that spend 4 to 5 years in this program that get it, understand it. I don't want to go out and recruit a guy that the only thing he cares about is how much NIL money, because you can't build a football program with individualism. It has to still be a team concept. It's the ultimate team sport. I do think players deserve to make as much money as people want to give them, based on their name, image, and likeness once they're in your program. I'm a little nervous about seeing, some of the guardrails that scare me is, okay, you go sign a high school kid and he comes in and he gets $1 million NIL deal and he ends up on the scout team all year.
Mm-hmm.
Does he pay the money back? Does he, okay, in the real world, that doesn't happen that way. And, the NFL was set up that way back in the day, where the guys drafted made more than the 7-year veteran, and they changed it. So, to me, that's kind of one of the gray areas of it, because, now all of a sudden you're investing money in a player that, hopefully it pans out, but when it doesn't, how many more boosters or supporters are going to jump up and give money to an NIL or to a collective to bring in players that, may not be what you thought they were.
Right, and so the idea being that's why you want it separated, because you don't want it to be that forces some coach's hand to say, hey, we have to play a guy because we might lose out on the opportunity for them to support the next guy, even though he's not the guy that should be playing. All right, I want to give you the opportunity. I know this is always tough because coaches want to name everybody. Can you give me maybe an example? Just because we weren't out there for every practice, maybe somebody whose reality for the fall might legitimately have changed during the course of the spring, that genuinely turned your guys' heads and said, this might be someone that's moved into a bigger role than we thought they were going to be in before the spring began?
Man, we have so many returning guys that on both sides of the ball. I would say, the running back room, I've been really, really pleased with, the 3 young running backs, Kobe McDonald, Roman Hemby, and Antoine Littleton. And, Twan and Roman both played in the bowl game along with Kobe, who played most of the year. And, I feel like that room we've recruited to get it back where we'd like to see it. DJ Glaze continues to really impress us, up front as a guy that, played quite a bit of football for us a year ago. And, we see him as a starter for us somewhere. Obviously those guys kind of jump out. And then Deonte Banks being back, I thought prior to him being injured, he was one of our better corners that we had in our program. And when we lost him, and then obviously Jacorian going down for a few games, that really hurt us. So those are the ones that kind of really have jumped out to me that, but there's a ton of players that, veteran guys that have got a lot of reps, a lot of playing time over the last 3 years that we built this thing. So I feel really good about kind of where we are in terms of that piece of it.
All right. And who do you like in the finals?
I got to go Golden State.
I mean, come on, man. They just have so much. It's unreal.
Scoring baskets, man. The scoring. They can score.
Dude, and it's not. By the way, Kevon Looney's been playing like Draymond Green during the last couple of weeks. It's been nuts.
The only chance they have is to slow down those shooters, Splash Brothers.
It's too much. But then, what if Andrew Wiggins goes off? You know what I mean? Like you do everything right, and then Andrew Wiggins has games of his life. It's nuts. It's nuts how much they have. Mike Locksley, it's always great to catch up with you, sir. Congratulations on the extension. Glad that you're sticking around and showing that commitment to the place that I know you care so much about. Look forward to chatting with you again as we get closer to the start of the season. Thanks for hopping on with us, my friend.
Appreciate it, Glenn.